Hello, sleepy friends. Welcome to your sleep story. Tonight, we're slipping away to a quiet corner of France. Not the crowded cafés or the bright boulevards, but the France that wakes softly in the rain. The France of mist-covered hills, old stone villages, and long railway lines that hum gently beneath the night. You're stepping into your own cozy train cabin, a small wooden retreat tucked along the corridor of a night train making its slow journey across the countryside. Outside the window, rain begins to fall in delicate threads, tracing silver paths down the glass and turning the world beyond into soft shapes and watercolor shadows. Inside, everything is warm. A small lamp glows beside your bed, casting honey-colored light across the blankets. Your coat hangs by the door, still cool with the scent of rain. The polished wood creaks softly with the rhythm of the rails, and somewhere down the corridor, you hear the distant clink of teacups, a door sliding closed, a whisper of footsteps on carpet. Tonight's story is a gentle journey through this peaceful train cabin, past twilight towns drifting by in the rain, through the quiet hum of late-night travel, and into the deep stillness that happens only when the world is moving and you are perfectly still. You'll listen to the steady patter of rain against the glass, the soft sigh of the wind brushing the sides of the train, and the rhythmic heartbeat of wheels rolling along the tracks. A lullaby made of motion, designed to guide you deeper and deeper into rest. So take a slow breath in and let it fall out softly. If these gentle bedtime stories bring you calm, feel free to like, comment, or share them with someone who might need a little piece of their own. It helps others find their way here, to these quiet corners of the night. For now, settle beneath the warm blankets, rest your head against the pillow, and let the train carry you forward into a soft, drifting sleep. Your peaceful journey begins here, on a rainy night in a cozy cabin, somewhere in the French countryside. The rain had been falling since late afternoon, long before you reached the small countryside station. It wasn't a heavy, urgent rain, but a steady silver curtain that softened the world into gentle blurs. By the time you stepped onto the platform, the day had already folded itself into evening. The sky hung low and blue, wrapped in mist, and the lamps along the station burned with a warm amber glow that pooled across the wet cobblestones. You paused beneath the overhang for a moment, letting the cool air settle around you, breathing in the faint scent of wet stone, damp leaves, and distant wood smoke drifting from somewhere unseen. The platform was nearly empty. Only a few travelers waited quietly, their voices hushed, their bags gathered close, as if the weather itself had invited everyone to speak softly. Far down the tracks, a single figure paced with gentle steps, umbrella tilted against the breeze. Another stood beneath the shelter of a pillar, reading by the dim station light. The whole place felt unhurried, suspended, like a small pocket of the world, where nothing rushed, nothing demanded, nothing pressed forward. Just rain and quiet and the soft promise of night. You pulled your coat a little closer and stepped toward the edge of the platform, peering down the rails. They stretched into the mist, two silver lines reflecting lamplight and the shimmering trails of rain. Somewhere in the distance, through the hush of evening, you heard it, the faint, low hum of an approaching train, a soothing sound, deep and steady, like a long breath drawn across the countryside. It grew slowly, patiently, as though it too understood the softness of this night and had no intention of disturbing it. Moments later, the night train appeared, gliding out of the darkness with quiet grace. The headlamp cut a pale beam through the mist, revealing droplets suspended like tiny stars. Its cars followed in a slow curve, each window glowing softly with warm golden light. It looked almost like a moving constellation, a gentle ribbon of brightness winding through the rain-soaked French hills. As the train came to a stop, a soft sigh of steam drifted along the platform. The doors opened with a muted click, and warm air flowed out, carrying the subtle scent of polished wood, linen, and something faintly herbal, perhaps tea brewing somewhere down the corridor. You stepped inside, leaving the cool evening behind. The interior felt like stepping into another world, a cocoon of gentle lamplight, hushed footsteps, and the soft rumble of the engine beneath the floor. A porter greeted you with a nod, not hurried, not formal, but welcoming in a quiet, practiced way that made you feel instantly at ease. You handed your ticket over, watched it punched neatly, then followed him down the narrow hallway, lined with wooden paneling and small sconces glowing like candlelit beacons. Each step brought you deeper into the rhythm of the train, the subtle sway, the low hum, the soft whisper of wheels gliding along wet rails. It felt both grounding and hypnotic, each sound weaving gently into your breath. Your cabin was small, but beautifully arranged. A single bed with a thick navy blanket, a polished wooden shelf, a lamp with a frosted glass shade, and a wide window that looked out onto the rain-drenched countryside. A soft woolen robe hung neatly beside the door, and a small folded note rested on the table. Welcome aboard. May your night be peaceful and your journey gentle. You set your bag aside, took a slow breath, and let the calm of the room settle into your chest. Then you stepped toward the window. Outside, the world was already shifting. The train began to move again, slowly at first, sliding past the station lamps, past a few waiting passengers, past the old stone building, whose windows glowed in the rain. As the platform drifted away, the landscape opened into rolling fields, shadowy and softened by mist. Trees passed like quiet silhouettes, their shapes blurred by the streaks of rain on the glass. You rested your hand on the window frame, feeling the faint vibration of the train beneath your palm. It was an oddly comforting sensation, steady, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the journey itself. As the train picked up speed, the world outside became a gentle watercolor of nighttime blues and deep greens. Occasional clusters of lights appeared, a farmhouse with a lantern glowing on the porch, a village with narrow streets winding between tiled roofs, a solitary church steeple standing tall against the sky. Each glimpse felt like a small story, a quiet life continuing in the soft embrace of the storm. The rain continued to fall, tracing delicate patterns across the glass before slipping away into the dark. You listened to it, its light tapping, its murmuring rush as the wind carried it along the side of the car, its steady rhythm mingling beautifully with the soft rumble of the train. Together, they created a sound like no other, an orchestration of motion and weather, of comfort and distance, of night unfolding its quiet gifts. You sank onto the edge of the bed, letting your shoulders relax. The cabin rocked gently with the movement of the tracks. The lamplight on the wall flickered just slightly every time the train rounded a curve, painting soft shadows across the wooden panels. Everything felt warm, sheltered, safe. Reaching for the small teapot left on the shelf, you poured yourself a cup of herbal tea, fragrant and delicate, with hints of lavender and chamomile. The warmth seeped through your hands, grounding you further in the moment. You took a sip. It tasted like calm itself. For a while, you simply sat in silence, watching the landscape pass. The sky darkened fully, turning the world outside into a deep canvas, brushed with faint streaks of distant light. Occasionally, the silhouette of a hill or the outline of a forest edge appeared before disappearing into the thick, soothing darkness. Inside the cabin, time loosened its grip. Minutes became soft, unhurried things. The gentle sway of the train made your breathing deepen naturally. The warmth of the blanket beside you invited you to rest against it. And the quiet familiarity of the small space, the robe, the lamp, the soft hum of the heater, made it feel less like travel and more like returning to a place you had always known but never visited. You stretched your legs out, pulled the pillow beneath you, and allowed your body to sink more fully into comfort. The train shifted slightly as it moved along the rails, its rhythm steady and reassuring. Each curve felt like the train adjusting itself to cradle you more gently. Each sound, soft metal on metal, the whisper of the wind, the distant echo of the engine, felt like a lullaby designed for travelers who sought rest, not speed. At one point, the train slowed as it passed through a small town. Warm yellow lights glowed from the windows of houses clustered along the tracks. You could see silhouettes, someone washing dishes, someone reading by lamplight, someone pulling curtains closed for the night. A dog trotted beneath a street lamp, shaking rain from its fur. A cyclist pedaled slowly beneath an umbrella, wheels whispering across the wet road. The town slipped away, replaced again by fields, forests, and the far-reaching stretch of countryside. The train hummed, the rain answered, and you felt yourself soften more deeply into the moment. You took another sip of tea, then set the cup aside, letting the warmth linger in your chest. Outside the window, lightning flashed somewhere far away, soft, muted, a pale glow behind thick clouds. Not frightening, but peaceful, like a quiet pulse of light through the night. A moment later, thunder rolled in the distance, low and slow, barely more than a deep sigh stretching across the sky. The storm was present, but gentle, more like a companion traveling alongside the train than a force to fear. You reached for the blanket, pulling it over your legs as you leaned back more fully. The fabric was soft, heavy in the way that weighted blankets are, grounding and comforting. You tucked it around yourself and let your body sink deeper into its embrace. For a long, quiet moment, you simply breathed, in, out, in, out. The rhythm of the train aligned naturally with the rhythm of your breath, each sway matching the slow rise and fall of your chest. It felt as though the entire journey, train, landscape, rain, had attuned itself to your body, supporting you gently as the night unfolded. You let your eyes drift toward the window again. The landscape was darker now, but the occasional glimmer of distant light, maybe a farmhouse lamp, maybe the reflection of a quiet river, sparkled faintly against the night. The rain softened to a whisper. The wind brushed gently across the cabin window. The temperature settled into a perfect balance of cool outside, warm within. Here, in this small moving room, you felt the beautiful contradiction of travel. Motion without effort, distance without urgency, solitude without loneliness. You rested your head against the pillow, letting your gaze soften until the outside world blurred into gentle shapes and colors. The blanket rose and fell with each breath. The hum of the train became a soothing vibration beneath you. And slowly, without trying, without even noticing at first, your thoughts began to drift. The day felt far away now, softened by rain and movement and warmth. Every worry seemed to dissolve in the glow of the lamp and the steady rhythm of the wheels. You weren't rushing to arrive anywhere. You weren't chasing a destination. You were simply traveling, held gently by the night, carried quietly through the heart of France, wrapped in the warmth and hush of a cozy private cabin. And the rain, falling endlessly against the glass, seemed to whisper the same message again and again. You are here. You are safe. You can let go. The train rocked softly as it rounded another curve. You pulled the blanket closer, exhaled a long, slow breath, and allowed yourself to sink more deeply into comfort, knowing the night was still young and the journey still full of quiet wonders waiting in the dark. Your gentle passage through France had only just begun. The soft click of the cabin door closing behind you feels like entering a different world, one made entirely of warmth, lamplight, and slow-moving comfort. The rain continues its delicate tapping against the window, but inside the small train cabin, everything is wrapped in a quiet glow. A reading lamp casts a warm pool of gold across the wooden table beside the window, and the gentle swaying of the train makes the light shift on the walls as though it's breathing. The air smells faintly of polished wood, linen, and something sweet. Maybe vanilla from the small candle someone left on the shelf, though it's unlit. It is the perfect kind of quiet, a quiet that feels held rather than empty. You slip off your coat and drape it over the small brass hook by the door. Droplets of rain glisten on the fabric, before slowly darkening into the material. You brush your fingertips across the sleeves, feeling the cool dampness give way to the soft warmth of the cabin. The floor under your feet is carpeted in a deep blue pattern. Worn slightly at the edges from years of travel, it feels familiar somehow, like stepping into a memory rather than a new place. Trains have a way of doing that, combining movement with nostalgia, travel with a sense of returning home. The train hums gently beneath you, the soft rumble settling into your bones like a heartbeat. Every now and then, the wheels groan softly as the train curves, the sound long and low and soothing. The rhythm becomes a kind of music, the metallic thrum, the low hum of the engine, the muted patter of rain against the window, and the occasional sigh of distant wind funneling through the narrow cracks between old train cars. It is a lullaby in motion. You move closer to the window, your reflection faint against the glass. Outside, the French countryside slips by in quiet layers, dark fields blurred by rain, rows of shuttered farmhouses softened by mist, tall poplars swaying gently against a deep, moody sky. Every so often, a distant light flickers, a farmhouse lantern, a village street lamp, or the glow of another train passing far off in the distance. They appear and vanish quickly, like tiny constellations in motion. You rest your palm against the cool glass. Even through the thickness of the window, you can feel the raw night air pressing from outside, fresh and clean and full of rainfall. A soft chime echoes through the hallway, an announcement, but so gentle it barely disturbs the calm. The conductor speaks in French, his voice low and soothing, almost melodic. You don't need to understand the words. The tone alone is enough. It sounds like reassurance, like a reminder that you are safe, that the journey is long and unhurried, that the night will take care of you. You settle into the cushioned seat by the window. The cushion sighs beneath your weight, warming quickly. There is a blanket folded neatly at the foot of the bed, soft grey wool with thin navy lines running through it like tiny paths. You unfold it across your lap, its warmth settling instantly into your legs. You breathe in slowly, exhaling even slower, letting your shoulders drop, letting everything inside you soften one bit at a time. On the small wooden table sits a carafe of warm herbal tea. You pour a cup, watching the steam curl upward in delicate spirals. The scent is calming: chamomile, lavender, and a hint of honey. The first sip warms your chest, spreading outward like a soft glow, pooling in your hands, settling in your stomach. The warmth contrasts beautifully with the coolness of the window pane. The sensation grounds you, bringing you fully into the moment. The rhythmic creaking of the cabin walls becomes almost conversational. As the train leans into each curve, the wood and metal hum quietly, like an old ship drifting across still waters. You close your eyes for a moment and simply listen. The world becomes a tapestry of gentle sounds. The rain brushing softly against the glass, the muted clatter of distant wheels, the steady hum of the engine beneath the floor. Each sound blends seamlessly into the next, forming a slow, steady cadence that eases your breath into a calm, even rhythm. When you open your eyes, the landscape has shifted. The train moves through a stretch of forest now, tall pines standing in dark, watchful silhouettes. Their forms blur through the rain, softened by mist and distance. The train's warm interior contrasts the cool forest outside, creating a feeling of being wrapped in a cocoon, carried gently through the world without effort. You lean back in your seat, letting the cabin hold you in its careful, rocking cradle. A small booklet rests on the table. Voyage de nuit, printed in elegant script across the cover. Curious, you open it. Inside, delicate watercolor illustrations of French landscapes fill the pages. Lavender fields washed in purple dusk, sleepy hilltop villages, stone bridges over quiet rivers, moonlit vineyards, old forests breathing fog. Each picture is paired with a short passage in both French and English. One line catches your eye. Night trains do not rush. They glide. They listen. They let the world soften. You read it twice, feeling something inside you respond, like a knot gently loosening. You set the booklet aside and take another sip of tea. The flavor is even smoother now, the warmth settling deeper. You wonder who else is riding this train tonight. Perhaps others are curled beneath blankets in their own cozy cabins, listening to the same rain, feeling the same slow rocking, finding their own quiet among the shadows of moving landscapes. There is something comforting in the thought, not crowdedness, but companionship at a distance, like sharing the same soft song without needing to speak. Outside, the trees thin again, and the countryside opens into a broad valley. The rain softens to a drizzle, and thin ribbons of fog drift across the fields. A small river winds through the valley below, shining faintly in the dim light, a silver thread stitching the landscape together. The train follows his curve for a while, moving in harmony with the water's path. You imagine the river carrying stories from one village to the next, whispering them into the night, letting them drift beneath bridges and into meadows. The train cabin shifts gently as you rise and walk to the opposite window. This one looks out toward rolling hills dotted with clusters of tall cypress trees. Lightning flashes far in the distance, not bright or frightening, just a soft flicker behind the clouds, like the sky breathing. A low rumble follows, long and smooth, blending naturally with the steady hum of the train. It feels less like a storm approaching, and more like an old friend clearing his throat somewhere along the horizon. You return to your seat and wrap the blanket a little tighter around your shoulders. The wool is soft, the weight comforting. You sit back, letting the sway of the cabin rock you just slightly. The rain has picked up again, tapping steadily against the window in tiny patterns, some quick and light, others slow and heavy. You find yourself matching your breath to those gentle rhythms, inhaling with the lighter taps, exhaling with the deeper ones. It feels natural, effortless. The lights in the hallway dim slightly, a sign that nighttime has fully settled across the train. The atmosphere grows even softer, more peaceful. Everything takes on a deeper warmth. The shadows grow longer, folding into corners like old memories. You take another sip of tea, savoring its warmth as it slides down your throat. You think back to the journey so far, to the rainy platform, the slow ascent into the forested hills, the glittering lights of small villages passing like drifting stars. And now, to the quiet, warm embrace of this cozy cabin. There is something magical about traveling at night, especially by train. The world outside moves in slow motion, while the world inside stands still. The landscape becomes a story, each passing scene a new chapter, and all the while, you are held gently in this moving sanctuary. The train begins to climb again, the engine humming with a little more effort. You press your forehead lightly to the window, watching as the rain streaks down in silver threads. The glass vibrates softly with the movement. Somewhere far below, a small cluster of lights flickers. A tiny village nestled against the hillside. You imagine the people inside their homes, families gathered around warm tables, someone reading by a window, someone pouring tea into a steaming cup. Life unfolding in quiet, gentle ways. The train rounds a bend, and the landscape rises sharply. A towering cliffside appears just beyond the tracks, its surface dark and wet from the rain. Water drips from narrow ledges, falling into the shadows below. The train moves past it slowly, the wheels clicking softly as though measuring each inch of the path. You feel a sense of awe at the closeness of the rock, its enormity softened only by the mist threading through its cracks. As the train descends again into a valley, you feel the warmth of the cabin embrace you like a familiar friend. You pull the blanket up to your chin and sink deeper into the seat. Your eyelids grow heavier with each passing minute, the motion of the train lulling you into a state that feels somewhere between waking and dreaming. The rain softens, then strengthens, then softens again, like a long, calming breath the world is taking. You close your eyes, not to sleep yet, but to listen more fully. The train speaks in soft rhythms, the click of metal on metal, the sway of wood, the distant echo of wheels rolling across old tracks. The sounds layer together like threads in a tapestry. You imagine the train weaving its way through France with careful intention, stitching the night together in long, gentle lines. Slowly, you open your eyes again. The warm glow from the lamp still fills the cabin, casting gentle shadows on the walls. The tea has cooled slightly, but the warmth still lingers inside you. You stretch your legs along the cushioned bench and rest your head against the pillow at the end. The fabric is soft, smelling faintly of lavender and clean linen. You let your thoughts drift like the mist outside, unhurried and unbound. The cabin feels like its own small world, a sanctuary built for this very moment. Outside, the rain continues in steady, soothing rhythms. Inside, the warmth grows deeper, quieter, more inviting. The night rolls on. The train keeps moving, and slowly, gently, the story of your journey settles into your breath. The rain was lighter now, tapping softly against the cabin window, like a quiet reminder that the night was still unfolding. You shifted slightly in your seat, letting the gentle sway of the train settle through your body. There was something about a train at night, the rhythm of the wheels, the muted glow of corridor lights, the faint scent of warm metal that made the world feel slower, kinder, easier to step into. Rain streaks traced slow paths down the window. Beyond them, the French countryside drifted past in shades of deep green and muted blue, softened by darkness and distance. You could see the shapes of farmhouses tucked against rolling hills, small villages glowing faintly under warm street lamps, and narrow roads that curved like delicate silver threads between fields. For a moment, the entire landscape felt like a painting moving gently beside you. The train hummed steadily. A soft vibration lived under your feet, the quiet heartbeat of the rails carrying the whole world forward without rushing. And each time the wheels passed a joint in the track, the faintest click, click, click whispered beneath the carriage, creating a rhythm that matched the pull and release of your breath. You reached for the small ceramic cup beside you, tea the color of warm amber, still steaming lightly. Its scent rose soft and calming, chamomile with a hint of honey. The warmth pressed through the cup and into your palms, grounding you in a way that felt comforting and familiar. The attendant had passed by earlier, their voice gentle, offering drinks to help guests settle for the night. You had chosen the tea without much thought, but now, holding it, it felt like exactly the right choice. The cabin was softly lit, just a single overhead lamp and a small reading light near the seat. Shadows moved gently over the wooden panels each time the train rounded a curve or passed beneath a bridge. The room felt small in the most comforting way possible, like a warm pocket of stillness moving through the world. You leaned back and allowed your eyes to drift half-closed as the train swayed. Outside, the rain softened into mist. Far in the distance, a church steeple stood against the fabric of night, a faint silhouette among the rolling fields. Its presence felt old, steady, and timeless, like something that had watched over this land for centuries. A few minutes later, the train entered a quiet village. You could see rows of houses with shuttered windows, soft golden light glowing behind curtains. A bakery sign swung slightly in the breeze. Boulangerie painted in warm, faded letters. Even in the rain, you imagined the smell of fresh bread that must drift through this town every morning. The train slowed as it passed the tiny station platform. Just 2 lamps and a wooden bench beneath a slanted roof. Not a single person waited there. Only the rain, falling steadily in silver strands. You felt a peculiar sense of peace watching all of this, as if you were slipping gently through the spaces between other people's stories. You weren't arriving, and you weren't leaving. You were simply passing through, lightly, like a soft brushstroke across the night. The train began to pick up speed again. The countryside returned, fields of lavender now only visible as faint purple shadows in the dark, orchards arranged in quiet geometric rows, the silhouette of a distant farmhouse with a single warm light glowing in an upstairs window. You wondered what the people in that farmhouse were doing right now. Perhaps reading, perhaps listening to the rain, perhaps drifting towards sleep just as you were. You took a slow sip of your tea. Its warmth spread outward, softening your shoulders, your jaw, your heartbeat. Everything felt unhurried. After a few minutes, you rose from your seat and stepped into the corridor. The lights were dim, casting a warm, gold-amber glow along the narrow passageway. The train swayed gently beneath your feet as you walked, hand brushing occasionally against the polished wooden wall for balance. The windows along the corridor were larger, offering a wider view of the countryside. You stopped at one and rested your palm lightly on the cool glass. Rain gathered in long streaks beneath your touch, illuminated briefly each time the train passed a street lamp or farmhouse light. Fields stretched endlessly into the night, wide, hushed, and peaceful. Clouds hung low, drifting slowly across the sky like sleep settling over the land. Somewhere in the distance, you could see the faint shimmer of water, perhaps a small lake or a bend in the river. The train turned slightly, and with the shift of angle, the lake came more clearly into view. Dark, quiet, and glassy, reflecting the muted blue glow of the night sky. The reflection rippled gently as rain touched the surface. It looked like a place where time moved even slower than here. You stayed at the window until the landscape faded back into rolling hills. Then, slowly, you made your way to the dining car. The dining car was softly lit. A warm glow diffused through frosted sconces, lining the walls. Small tables hugged the windows, each with a single candle flickering inside a protective glass cup. A few passengers were scattered quietly through the room, each lost in their own peaceful bubble, reading books, gazing out the windows, or simply sipping warm drinks while listening to the soft hum of the train. You found a seat near the center and placed your hands around a fresh cup of tea. This time, it was a blend of lavender and vanilla, the aroma soft and sweet, like the scent of a warm blanket pulled from a cedar chest. Outside, you could see the vineyards now, long, gentle rows stretching across the slopes, their outlines blurred by mist and moonlight. You imagined them glowing green in the daytime, full of life and story, but tonight they rested, bathed in the quiet of rain. The candle at your table flickered as the train turned. Its flame swayed gently, steady but alive, casting warm shadows across your cup and the wooden tabletop. You thought about how different this journey felt from the world outside, how the train created a space where time slowed, where breathing came easier, where even the smallest things, the soft clink of a teacup, the warm glow of a lamp, felt like part of something comforting and safe. After finishing your tea, you thanked the attendant and slowly walked back toward your cabin. The corridor was empty now, lit only by the soft golden glow along the floor. The rain had lightened further, becoming no more than a faint patter. You paused at another window and watched the land shift again, now dotted with clusters of old stone cottages, each roof shining darkly beneath the rain. The train rounded a curve, giving you a wide view of the countryside. A river appeared, long, winding, backlit by the pale wash of the cloud-softened moon. Its waters carried reflections, like threads of silver. Somewhere near the riverbank, you spotted another station, tiny, old, with ivy growing along the walls, and a sign so weathered the letters looked hand-painted. The platform light shimmered softly through the mist. You imagined stepping off there in another life, finding a little inn, listening to the rain against its windows, waking to the scent of bread from the nearby bakery. But you were here instead, in a train cabin moving gently through the night, and it felt perfectly enough. Back in your cabin, you sat down and pulled the blanket over your legs. The blanket was soft, thick, and heavy enough to offer comfort without weighing you down. You leaned your head against the seat, letting the slow rocking of the train lull the edges of your thoughts. The window shimmered with rain again, the soft, endless lines of it drifting downward in graceful patterns. You watched until the shapes blurred, until the countryside became a tapestry of quiet light and shadow. Somewhere far ahead, the conductor announced a distant stop, in a voice so calm it felt like part of the night itself. A moment later, the train slipped into a forested stretch, tall trees standing like guardians along the tracks. Their branches reached overhead, forming a dark, peaceful canopy. The rain fell more softly here, caught by leaves before reaching the earth. The cabin light made a gentle halo around your seat. The air smelled faintly of warm wood, tea, and the lingering hint of lavender from the dining car. The train hummed and rocked, a cradle of movement and quiet. You exhaled long and slow, not because you meant to, but because the moment simply drew it out of you. Maybe you realized in the hush of that passing forest that there was nothing left to do, no place you had to be, no thought you needed to carry. Just this, the rhythm of the rails, the whisper of rain, and the soft comfort of your cabin drifting through the countryside of France. You tucked the blanket closer and closed your eyes for a while, letting the landscape pass unnoticed, becoming instead something you could feel as motion, as warmth, as stillness wrapped in movement. The train continued its gentle journey through the night, and you rested in your warm, quiet cabin, safe, unhurried, and guided softly by the rain. The night has settled fully now, wrapping itself around the train like a soft, dark blanket. The last hints of twilight have long since faded, leaving only the glow of distant towns and scattered farmhouses passing by like quiet embers in the distance. Your cozy cabin feels even more like its own small world, a warm cocoon moving steadily through the dark countryside of France. You are no longer sitting upright, poised for travel. You're stretched out now, comfortably resting against the bed, tucked along the wall of your little cabin. The pillow is soft beneath your head, holding your weight in just the right way. The blanket rests over you, warm and reassuring, carrying that faint, clean scent of cotton and a hint of the cabin's wood and linen. Every part of you is slowly loosening. Shoulders, arms, legs, even the tiny muscles around your eyes. The train's movement, which at first felt like motion, feels now more like a gentle rocking, subtle, rhythmic, unhurried. You feel it beneath you in the mattress and along the frame of the bed. It's as though the entire world has narrowed to the soft sway of this cabin, the steady hum of the engine far ahead, and the rain brushing quietly against the windows. Outside, the rain continues its patient song. It isn't wild or forceful. It falls in fine, persistent strands that streak the glass and blur the passing light into soft smears of gold and white. Every so often, A brighter cluster of lights appears and then fades. A small station, a village, a factory, a road winding under the tracks, each one here for a moment and then gone, like a dream detail that slips away as soon as you try to hold it. You let your gaze drift towards the window, the darkness outside framed by the soft, warm glow of your cabin light. Drops bead and slide on the glass, weaving paths that catch a glimmer of reflection from inside. The faint shape of your blanket, the amber halo of the small lamp, the suggestion of your face turned gently toward the night. The world beyond is moving quickly, but from where you lie now, everything feels slow, softened, distant. The sounds inside the cabin have become a familiar lullaby. The gentle clack of the wheels rolling over seams in the track, the muted vibration in the walls, the whisper of air slipping past the windows, the faint creak of wood and metal as the train leans ever so slightly into its curves. From somewhere down the corridor, you catch the softest echoes of other lives. A muffled footstep, a door closing with careful hands, a low voice fading behind a wall. Nothing intrudes, nothing demands your attention. Every sound is softened by distance, wrapped in the steady hush of the train and the rain outside. You breathe in slowly, filling your lungs with the warm, sheltered air of the cabin. It carries traces of clean linen, faint tea, and the subtle warmth of people sleeping in nearby rooms. You breathe out, and with each exhale, a little more of the day falls away. The thoughts, the tension, the lingering bits of planning and memory that once felt so important. Out here, moving through the French night, none of it needs to be carried. The train carries you instead. You think back, perhaps briefly, to the places you passed earlier. The small towns tucked beside rivers, the vineyards climbing gently over hillsides, the silhouettes of church spires and chateaux rising from the mist. You don't replay them in detail now. You simply feel the impression they left behind. Quiet beauty, steady movement, gentle discovery. A day spent letting the world pass by your window without needing to chase it. Your mind, like the train, begins to run along slower tracks now. Thoughts stretch out, thin and quiet, like distant lights on the horizon. They don't cling or circle. They appear, glow faintly, and drift away again. You don't need to hold on to anything. The journey is continuing whether you watch it or not. You shift slightly under the blanket, finding an even more comfortable position. The mattress responds with a soft sigh, the cabin with a faint creak. The lamp on the small table beside you is dim now, not fully dark, just low enough that the room feels more like a nest of shadows and soft edges than a place of sharp lines and detail. The light doesn't ask you to stay awake. It simply keeps you company as you drift. The train passes over a bridge. For a brief few seconds, the sound changes. The hum becomes a hollow echo, the wheels singing gently against the raised structure. You feel the subtle shift, the way the vibrations alter in the floor beneath your bed. And then, it's gone. The wheels return to their familiar rhythm. The sound of the rails settles again into its steady, comforting pattern. You can imagine the landscape outside, even if you can't see it clearly now. Fields stretched out in darkness, edged by hedgerows and low stone walls. Farmhouses standing quietly, their windows glowing softly in the rain. Narrow roads weaving like pale ribbons through the land. Here and there, the distant shape of a hill, the faint suggestion of a river catching a fragment of light. France at night is less a picture and more a feeling, soft, layered, timeless. Within your small cabin, time seems to thicken, slow, and soften. Minutes melt into one another. You could be just beginning the journey or nearly at its end. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you are held between places, in motion but deeply still. There is a special kind of peace in that, in letting go of the need to arrive and simply allowing yourself to be carried. As you lie there, the rain shifts slightly, growing louder for a moment as the train passes through a heavier patch of cloud. The drops strike the windows with a bit more clarity, forming a soft, textured backdrop beneath the sound of the wheels. Then, just as gently, it eases again, returning to its quiet, steady patter. Each change is subtle, like variations in a piece of music that never fully stops, only flows. You notice your breathing again without trying to. In, slow and easy. Out, even slower. Your chest rises and falls in gentle waves that seem to mirror the rolling of the train. Somewhere deep in your body, a tiredness that has been waiting patiently all along begins to fully unfurl. Not the harsh tiredness of strain, but the soft, welcome tiredness of someone who has finally found a safe place to rest. There is nothing left to do tonight, no stations to navigate, no tickets to check, no plans to make. Your only task, if you can even call it that, is to let the night carry you. Perhaps you imagine, just for a moment, the view from outside, the train gliding through the darkness, windows lined with warm rectangles of light, each one holding someone who is sleeping, reading, dreaming, or simply watching the world go by. A long, quiet thread of comfort weaving its way across the map. And within one of those small squares of light, that is you, wrapped in a blanket, listening to the rain and the rhythm of the rails. The cabin seems to grow quieter still. The lamp's glow softens even more, as if it too is growing sleepy. The slight sway of the bed begins to feel distant and slow, like the memory of being rocked. Your thoughts now barely form words. They become impressions, colors, the feeling of warmth, a sense of night stretching out around you, like a calm, endless sea. This train, this rainy night, this small, cozy cabin, they are all carrying you home. Home might be a place. It might be a feeling. It might simply be the deep, wordless rest waiting at the edge of sleep. Whatever it is for you, it's closer now, every minute, and you don't need to do anything to reach it. The journey itself is doing the work. You just breathe and listen and let go. From this point on, the story doesn't need more words. The night is already telling its own, in the steady murmur of the wheels on the track, in the soft percussion of rain on glass, in the occasional distant call of the train as it passes through the dark. Soon, the narration will fade, leaving only the sounds of the journey, the gentle rumble, the rain, the quiet, comforting motion of a train gliding through the sleeping countryside. Those sounds will stay with you, like a hand resting lightly on your shoulder, like a blanket tucked securely around you, like a soft voice saying, "You are safe, you are held, you can rest now." Let your mind grow quiet. Let your body become heavy and relaxed. Let the rhythm of the rails and the song of the rain carry you gently, effortlessly, into deep, peaceful sleep.